We're going to be coming mostly from Genesis 49, but I'm going to back up two scriptures because remember this is around about the second year of a 7-year period of lack, of famine. And of course we know that Joseph has reconciled with his brothers. He's brought his father back, and Pharaoh has really given Joseph the position as governor, so to speak. Give an ear. It says, and Israel said unto Joseph in 21, behold, I die, but God shall be with you and bring you again unto the land of your fathers. Moreover, I have given to thee one portion above thy brethren, which I took out of the hand of the Amorite with my sword and my bow. Let me read that out of another translation. Israel said to Joseph, you see that I am dying, but God will be with you and will bring you back to the land of your ancestors. Moreover, I am giving you a Shechem, shoulder, ridge, share, city of Shechem, more than to your brothers. I captured it from the Amorite with my sword and bow. Now remember, I said to you earlier that Joseph had reconciled with his brothers, and of course he admonished them when they were going back to get their father, to give them the good news that Joseph was alive and that he was sending for him, and he wanted him to bring everything that was associated with him, and he was taking him, he was bringing his father and his brothers to enjoy a better quality of life. And if truth be told, that's why most of us, that's what most of us are in pursuit of. And I'm not just talking about getting more cars, getting a bigger house, getting, better whatever. That's a byproduct of it. But a better quality of life is when the very relationships in your home are where they're supposed to be. You see, a lot of times it's kind of like, we got a football game that we got to play. We ain't been to practice. We've been practicing the wrong plays. The running back want to be the quarterback. The tight end want to be the center. You see, everybody wants to do something that they weren't called to do. And so we get confused sometimes. We have the right guard wanting to call huddle, but the quarterback is the one that calls huddle. The quarterback says huddle up. The quarterback calls the plays. And usually when the quarterback calls a play, the right end might be mad because he know he's not getting the ball, so he might decide, well, I'm not going to block, or I'm not going to run my route. It's kind of the same thing when we talk about what we call church and things of this nature. And when we see things not quite right, we do get emotional. And emotions are a gift, but we're supposed to control our emotions. We're supposed to properly control our emotions. I didn't say we're not supposed to have them. We have them. They're a part of who we are. And you're saying, well, what does all of this have to do with what Jacob's about to share? You see, Jacob is getting ready to die. He's going to be dying. And in 49, he calls all of his sons. And he wants to have a word with his sons. Now, he loves his sons. But remember, I said that Joseph had reconciled with his brothers. But remember, as he was forgiving them and everything, he listed some of the infractions that they had done. And then, he gave that scripture that all of us like to quote, what somebody meant for bad, God meant for good, all of that. And all of that's accurate, as has been written. But again, I point out to you again, when he sent them to go get their father, he says, listen, don't quarrel among yourselves. And I've asked us before, I said last year, because 2024 was coming, and I said, saints, let us not quarrel among ourselves. And I'm not saying this like I'm some seer. No, I'm not. But as the crazier things get, folks, we got to stay focused. We have to stay focused. We have to not get caught up in what everybody else is getting caught up in. I'm not saying don't pay it any attention. Yes, believers need to know what's going on. We do. But our course is set. What are you talking about? Well, we always say, well, what do we do? Get in the Word. Look for His instructions. Rightly walk them out. Accurately. Read them, study them, meditate on them. Implement it in your homes. Implement it on your job, in the grocery store, cutting grass, in the bathroom. See, this document wasn't written to make you act proper in church. That's not what this was written for. It's an instruction manual how we're to live. Now, some of us have made a pretty good living repeating what we memorized out of this. And, some places will pay you a whole lot of money to come and just recite what you memorized. Or maybe you can sing real good and you put these words together to a song and get a melody, and folks are falling all over you. And I'm not knocking any of that. But for what's coming down the pike, folks, we need to be living a life that is going to help us navigate through all the chaos, because chaos is coming. And it's more important, what are you doing? Not so much what you're saying. A lot of us have gotten into some bad business arrangements, some bad social arrangements because of what somebody said, because of what somebody promised you. You see, a person with no integrity can say words that sound so full of truth, you bite. And we end up getting disappointed, getting disillusioned because we believed what they said rather than watched what they did. Some of us don't even answer a question honestly. In fact, there are certain questions you can ask a believer and they're going to give you the standard answer. They'll always say, well, I want somebody in my life that loves God. Be that friendship, spouse, or whatever. But that's the first thing out of our mouth. But is that really what you really? How are they living? How are you living? How are we living? How am I living? Does my talk match my walk? And I was using my and I for an example. Lord knows this ain't about me. He got much better in his lineup. That's no false humility. And a humble man will do what's right regardless of the situation. Let me say that again. A humble man will do what's right regardless of the situation. It has nothing to do with walking around with your head down, talking about you a weak worm of the dust. Let's find out what Jacob had to say to some of his sons. In 49, it says, then Jacob called for his sons and said, gather yourselves together, and I will tell you what will happen to you. Basically, and it says in the Akarif Hayamim, in the future. Assemble yourselves and listen, sons of Jacob. Pay attention to Israel, your father. Now remember, when he had a change in character, the Most High changed his name. See, now a lot of us, we'll change our name because of how it sounds. We might think that sounds cute. But, Pastor did a thing about that a long time ago, and he said, listen, stop going by how something sounds. You need to look up, you need to find out if that name has a meaning. Because the name is supposed to denote your character. So if the Most High changed your name, that's a real name change. I think any of us, we can pay maybe $100, $150 and change our name. And I can honestly say before you, there was an incident that took place. It troubled me so, I thought about changing my name. That's how much I detested it. But I didn't do it. I really, really considered it. But I thanks be to the Most High, I thought about how that will affect others. I got out of how I felt about it. I got out of how I was just totally confused, flustered. I'm like, how could this be? And see, a lot of times in life, stuff's happening to us, and a lot of times, saints, some of the challenges that we face are of our own doing, or of our own not doing. And see, we all kind of want to live our life, but, you might get away with it, but you might not. And if you don't get away with it, you don't get to choose the consequences. Excuse me. We don't get to choose the consequences when that happens. Again, getting back to that all-important question. Well, I'd like somebody in my life that loves God. Because, I don't want to do anything unless I consult the Most High. And then when you, then when we make a decision, sometimes we make a decision and we're hopeful that He'll bless it. That's what we do sometimes. But yet, I don't make a move unless God direct. Please. Let's cut this stuff. Listen to what his father says to his sons. Now remember, when they went back to tell their father, Joseph is alive, they remembered what they told him, how some animal tore him up and he, this and that. And it was just awful. Tore their father's heart up. How much pain have we brought to our parents and grandparents? Acting a fool, telling a lie. We forgot they were young once. It might have been many years ago. And then to the parents and the grandparents sometimes, hey, come on now, remember, because our folks done told us, okay, some of this coming back on you. That's Jesus calling. He says, gather yourselves together and I will tell you what will happen to you. Assemble yourselves and listen, sons of Jacob. Pay attention to Israel, your father. And then he says, Reuben, you are my firstborn, my strength, the first fruits of my manhood. Though superior in vigor and power. So he set him up. And I do that to my godchildren sometimes and I think I shared this with y'all, how when I really want to talk to them about something serious, I invite them out to dinner. Remember? And I say, you pick the restaurant. You pick, okay, and we gonna go. And oh man, But they don't know they do now, but at the time they didn't know they were being set up. And I do take seriously. It's not a churchy thing to stand before a congregation talking about, you're the godfather, you're the godparent. A lot of that's just, some will call it a tradition. A lot of that's just some church program stuff. And I'm not knocking that, but that's really a serious position to hold. It really is. If you're really gonna do it. But for some people they see that as that's an opportunity for me to get a new outfit, get my hair did, get some new shoes, stand before folk, hold the little baby for a little while, and then quickly give them back before they wet on your new outfit. I mean, that's how we are. That's how we are. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my strength, the first fruits of my manhood. Though superior in vigor and power, listen to this, you are unstable as water, so your superiority will end. See, a lot of times in households, the oldest kind of think, okay, if mom and dad ain't here, I'm running the show. And usually, because they're a little stronger, it's gonna go that way. But listen at what his father said. He said, you're my firstborn, my strength, the first fruits of my manhood. I imagine Reuben, strong, strapping, handsome, you know. And Jacob saying, look at him, boy, he's so handsome, he looked just like me. That's what his eyes were seeing. But then he said, but son, you are as unstable as water. And you know, water go wherever it's allowed. You know, how many of us are serving the Lord every kind of way it go? Saints, Torah followers are thermostats. You set the temperature. People that just talk about the things of God, they're thermometers. They indicate if it's hot outside, they hot. If it's cold outside, they cold. That's no kind of way. How you gonna help somebody? A thermostat says it's cold outside, turn the heat up. It's hot outside, turn the heat down. Turn the air on. That's being a thermostat. And how are they a thermostat? They get in the word and they look for, Torah says, if this situation happens, I'm to keep my integrity. If everybody else acting a fool, I'm to keep my integrity. If everybody's saying you can do this and you can do that, and if well, I don't want to get into that, but if a person don't want to be who they are and they want to be something else, you keep your integrity. The election getting ready to happen. You keep your integrity. Whether you vote, don't vote, or how you vote, keep your integrity. There are believers in one party and there are believers in the other, and there are some flakes in one party and there are some flakes in the other. You decide. But either way, folks, he still rule and reign. We got to remember that. And I'm going to say one more thing and then I'm going to move on about this political thing. Listen. Don't let how you feel, and this is not an endorsement in any way, don't let how you feel come into play if you vote or you don't vote about the people that are trying to get a position. What you might want to do is consider, how is this going to affect my household? Because like I said before, there's good people on both sides, but there's some flakes on both sides. Believe it or not, both sides have some good programs. Both sides got some quirky stuff too. But I mean, you know, you can just call a person's name and you can see don't let somebody have that kind of effect on you. Do you know that when they can elicit that kind of response from you, they got power over you? Now, I know that's going to make some folk hot. So I believe it was Brenda said something about personality. Folks, don't get into people's personalities. That's where we make our mistake. I'm going to move on. He says, you are as unstable as water, and I was not making I'm apolitical. I'm just concerned about my pocketbook. You are unstable as water, and your superiority will end because, well, here it is. See, sometimes our parents can tell us stuff, and grandparents can tell us stuff about us that sometimes we didn't know they knew that. I was sharing with a brother earlier this morning that when I was in junior high and high school, that's before they had cell phones, but we could get the phone in the kitchen had a long cord, and I would take the cord, the phone off the hook, and shut the door and sit on the steps talking on the phone. And ain't a whole lot gonna be said in the house that Ruby Green don't take her ear to. That's her house. So if she wanna eavesdrop, she gonna eavesdrop. And she used to hear me talking on the phone, and I wasn't aware of it for a long time. And some of the things I was saying was inappropriate to the young ladies. But she didn't say nothing right away. But one time we was sitting in the living room, and my mom and I, we had my mother, I took my mom, well, my mom took me because I wasn't even driving then. Isaac Hayes came to the Richmond Coliseum. And my mom and I went to see Isaac Hayes. And I had on a midi coat, them wide stack shoes, turtleneck. You couldn't tell me I wasn't clean. She was close with all her kids, of course. But I learned a lot about just being in the room with somebody, and you're not necessarily talking, but yet it's like we were communicating. So, like I said, your parents, they know a lot about you, but be that as it may, what she said to me when we were having such a nice moment, I thought, and she said, you one of them Negroes, I use the word Negro, you one of those Negroes that a young lady's gonna buy you a real nice white suit and push you over in the mud in it. Because see, she had heard some of the stuff I was saying. I thought I was being smooth. Sometimes what they say to us, it might hurt our feelings, but if we listen, we will prosper from it. Reuben, you are unstable as water, and your superiority will end because you climbed into your father's bed and defiled it. He climbed unto my concubine's couch. I'm sure at the time Reuben probably thought he had pulled something off. He thought he got away with something. And see, sometimes they may call you and tell you something at one of your high moments, and it'll bring you down a peg or two. That wasn't to crush you, but it actually was to steady you. In other words, they're saying, listen, you got some good qualities, but you need some work, son. And you have entered in to an area that was not for you. See, just because you can, you shouldn't. See, everything you can do, you don't have to do. Because some things we embark upon, the price is greater than we're willing to really pay. And I know Father, I really didn't mean it. Don't raise your hands. How many of us drank too much and got sick and we just said, Lord, if you just help me I'll never do that again. And that thing lasts about what, a couple of days? Or till the next weekend comes? But see, what I'm trying to get to is also, see, that comes from when all you do is proclaim. All you do is you reciting something you read in a book and you memorize. But again, when we get in there and we say, oh, wait a minute, he said, do this. I got to do this. Well, I don't really want to do, but he said, do it. And then the things he say don't do, like Reuben should have known, hey, you don't climb in your father's situation. Yeah, you the firstborn, but you ain't him. Again, sometimes we set ourselves up to do something because we physically can. The next one. Now listen what he said about his sons. And I'm gonna get back to the reconciling. Can you imagine when they told him that Joseph is alive? You don't think their father, wait a minute. Y'all told me. See, now that's not in here. But it had to happen. What if something like that had happened in your family? You just would, the Lord bless thee, and no. It'd be some kind of talking in there. It might be some words that I've never heard come out of any of your mouths. But when you at home and his family there, and I mean family, I would imagine some pretty choice words done come out a time or two. I love y'all. I love us, and we are all in this together. Simon and Levi are brothers. Now listen to what he says about these two. He says, Simon and Levi are brothers, related by weapons of violence. This is a father talking about his two of his sons. And then listen to this. Let me not enter their counsel. That's just, man, I tried talking to them, but they just insisted on being violent. Let me not enter their counsel. Let my honor not be connected with their people. Did you hear what that father said about his own sons? And he loved his boys. He loved his boys. But I can only imagine when you're about to transition out of here, you probably get real truthful with people. But you just hope somebody don't call me in and say, boy, I never liked you in that color. I said, well, don't die yet. Let me go change. Oh, my goodness. Let me not enter their counsel. Let my honor not be connected with their people, for in their anger they kill men. And then listen at this. And at their whim, they maimed cattle. Don't raise your hands. How many of you guys ever took some firecrackers and did something mean to a cat or a dog? Don't, you know. That was the equivalent, I'm not going to call no names, but there was a professional football player that had got in trouble for fighting dogs. That's along that kind of line, is what I'm saying, But boys, we kind of mischievous sometimes, Now, I'm not saying that make it right. I don't know what the girls do, but I'm sure they do something, But, God love them too. All right. And then he says, listen, cursed be their anger, for it has been fierce. See, a lot of times, man, when we get all mad and ready to fight, we gotta check that. We gotta check that. Because sometimes, we might not just don't like the way a person look, or we don't like the sound of their voice. But I want to punch them in the face. Now, I love Jesus. And that's what I used to tell people. I said, listen, man, hey, I love God with all my heart, but I will get in trouble. And you got to work on that. That's not right. What it said, bitter water and sweet water can't come out the same faucet. Now, which am I?
That's right.
But see, again, if you just proclaiming, you can say anything. Go into business with me, Ruby. I'm a man of integrity. And all the time, I'm stealing her money. And Reg waiting for me out in the parking lot. I wouldn't steal from your mother, Reg. See, I want to bring home, there's a difference between talking and doing. A big difference. Somebody wrote a song, talking loud and saying nothing? He said, cursed be their anger, for it has been fierce. Their fury, for it has been cruel. So, if I find myself all the time really wanting to get in a fight, does that mean that I'm a cruel person? And then, so what? Some of us will do good. Well, no, I'm not a cruel person. Well, I did this. I cut Miss Jones' grass for her last week. So what? Even what did the Most High said? If evil men can give good gifts, so because you do something that appears good, that don't necessarily make you good. That just make you a better actor or actress. Especially if you know all the right things to say. Oh, I just love you. Can I get $5? Oh, no. I love you, brother. Oh, yeah, man, my car's got a little trouble. Oh, man, well, I got to be somewhere. I'll pray for you, though. If there's ever anything I can do for you, just call. Then don't even pick up the phone. Cursed be their anger, for it has been fierce. Their fury, for it has been cruel. I will divide them into Jacob and scatter them in Israel. In other words, see, Jacob was a trickster. Remember, see, when I did a study long time ago, and it angered my father, because I was like, that wasn't fair what Jacob did to Esau. And I said, everybody always making Jacob out to be the good guy. And I said, that wasn't right what he did to Esau. And that's the way I used to take the other angle. Whatever I would hear, where everybody, this person a good guy, I said, okay, we'll see. So I'm studying the scriptures, trying to find dirt on people. What kind of stuff is that there? And I will say this now, because a lot of us like to quote that scripture. He said, Jacob have I loved, Esau have I hated. That don't mean he hate a race of people. He hate the fact that Esau didn't properly value his birthright, and so he basically gave it away for a bowl of something to eat. That's what that means. But people have taken that scripture to justify hating other people. Proclaiming. Proclamation without study is dangerous, because all you're doing is repeating something you read or you heard somebody preach or teach. Judah, your brothers will acknowledge you. Your hand will be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons will bow down before you. Judah is a lion's cub. My son, you stand over the prey. He crouches down and stretches like a lion, like a lioness. Who dares to provoke him? The scepter will not pass from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his legs, until he comes to whom obedience belongs. And it is he whom the people will obey. Now, it sounds like to me he was right proud of Judah. Again, he loved all his sons. He loved all his sons. What am I saying? What I'm saying is sometimes when we hear something about ourselves that we don't particularly like, it's not that they don't love us, it's because they love us, they're telling us the truth about us. We need to have the maturity to say, ouch, I don't like to hear that, but I will work on that. Father, help me to work on that. Tying his donkey to the vine, his donkey's coat to the choice grapevine. He washes his clothes in wine. He robes in the blood of grapes. His robes in the blood of grapes. His eyes will be darker than wine. His teeth whiter than milk. If that don't look like me. Zebulon, I heard you, Benita. Zebulon will live at the seashore with ships anchoring along his coast and his borders at Zidon. Issachar is a strong donkey lying down in the sheep's shed. On seeing how good is settled life and how pleasant the country, he will bend his back to the burden and submit to forced labor. Sound like he getting ready to go into captivity of some sort. But he's going to get with the program. See, a lot of us, all of us, we want money, but all of us don't want work. And I want to be careful here. In our quest, if you have everything set up the way you want it, God bless you, that's good. But between now and the end of this year, don't just think about your situation. You need to set aside a little extra because someone may need your assistance. I hope the need does not arise, but I would not have you give to your detriment. You see, even having a heart, having a heart to share, having a heart to want to give, having a heart to want to be the balm for a person. Nothing wrong with that. But we must use wisdom in all of what we're doing. And see, in walking out the things of Torah, walking out the instructions, wisdom comes along with it. But again, when all you're doing is talking, all you're doing is repeating what you heard or repeating what you read, and there's very little substance behind the words. See, if the words that we're saying don't encourage us to carry them out, what are we doing? What are we doing? It wasn't that the question that was asked. What are we doing? Dan will judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan will be a viper on the road, a horned snake in the path that bites the horse's heels so its riders fall off backwards. I wait for your deliverance, Most High. I mean, can you imagine their faces when they first, Daddy wants you, and you going in there, especially you, Reuben, I'm the firstborn. And you just waiting. And he start out with a compliment. And then, boy, he starts reading your mail like we used to say. And you can just watch the countenance. He came in like this and walked out like this. And again, I'm going to say this, and I don't know, and I'm going to say this. I do believe parents have a favorite, but wise parents never divulge who their favorite is. Now, I'm going to let y'all parents in on a secret. More than likely, the kids have got together, and they done already decided which one of them it is that you favor. Amen. And I've had privy to a couple of discussions like that, and I just sit back and I just listen. And most parents, they never divulge, And of course, if they church goes, they go, I love all my children equally. No, you need to go in there and repent. But a good friend of mine once, he said, listen, he said, God love everybody. He said, but the trick is you got to get him to like you. And that makes sense. That makes sense. And I'm not talking about, we can't butter him up anyway. Not really. I mean, if he gonna bless us, he gonna bless us. If he gonna whip us, he gonna whip us. If he gonna love us, he still love us. He love us whether he bless us, he love us if he whip us. Gad. A troop will troop on him, but he will troop on their heel. Asher's food is rich. He will provide food fit for a king. I'm going to go to Asher's house. Naphtali is a doe set free that bears beautiful fawns. Oh, that just brought something to mind. Well, it's not suitable for church. Listen to this. Listen what he says about Joseph. Now remember, listen. Yes, their father and the sons, they reconciled because he was just so overjoyed. He was like, man, I know I was going to die. Now I get to see Joseph. And he did forgive them in order for them to get to Egypt. And I'm not saying they didn't forgive each other. What I'm saying is even in the forgiveness, remnants remain. That's why sometimes we need to give people a little space and stop always reminding another believer, well, you got to forgive me. I will forgive you, but right now I want to punch you. So let's put some distance between us. And we're going to see it later on in another chapter. Even though Joseph forgave his brothers, they still were a little uneasy. They were fine as long as their father was alive. We'll get into that later. I see it, Reg. Listen to what he said about Joseph. He said, Joseph is a fruitful plant by a spring, with branches climbing over the wall. The archers attacked him fiercely, shooting at him and pressing him hard, but his bow remained taut, which means he just kept firing back. He was outnumbered, but he just kept shooting, kept coming. And that's what I like in any man, a man, even when you're outnumbered. If you gotta go down swinging, and I do mean that. I mean that. Prudent men of God have no business being soft or effeminate. And I'm not talking about clubbing somebody over the head and dragging them off to your cave. That's not what I'm talking about. Stand on your square and don't be moved. That's God's order. The archers attacked him fiercely, shooting at him and pressing him hard, but his bow remained taut, and his arms were made nimble by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob. From the shepherd, the stone of Israel, by the God of your father, who will help you. If we'll stand, he'll help us. He will help us. And if you find out you got a bunch of fake brothers with you, he'll still be your backup. You might be standing alone in your mind, but he's with you. This is no time to be fake, phony. by El Shaddai, who will bless you with blessings from heaven above. Blessings from the deep lying below. Blessings from the breast and the womb. The blessings of your father are more powerful than the blessings of my parents, extending to the farthest of the everlasting hills. They will be on the head of Joseph and the bow of the prince among his brothers. Can you imagine how proud his father was of him, considering all that he had been through? Now remember now, I want to point something else out to you. Even though, yes, Joseph was given visions and things, and the Most High shared some things with him about him, and he shared them with his father, and his father basically, I'm paraphrasing, said, Joseph, Joe, that's nice, that's good, but let's keep this between us. He said that for a reason, because perhaps, I don't know, perhaps if Joseph had listened to his father, his brothers might not have felt the way they felt about him. I don't know. I'm not saying, I don't know that for sure. I don't have chapter and verse for that. But in dealing with family dynamics, all types of things break out in a family. See, there's more that happen than what we read in the pages. They were people, like we're people. Listen to what he says about Benjamin. His new favorite, which became his old favorite when he found out Joseph was there. He says, Benjamin is a ravenous wolf, in the morning devouring the prey, in the evening still dividing the spoil. Joseph had a lot of challenges in his life. And he knew, see, and this again, see, listen. When the Most High shared what he shared with him, of course, that would make anybody's heart happy. And you want to share that with somebody. Yeah. But sometimes, saints, everything don't have to be broadcast. And sometimes, I know in business, a lot of times, if two companies are about to merge, they have what's called a quiet period. When stocks are about to be sold, they have a quiet period, which means shut your mouth, don't tell nobody what's going on. They'll know when it's broadcast. How many of us can keep a secret? Don't raise your hands. That's between you and the one that made you. Are you a person that someone can tell something in confidence and it stay with them? Or are we a people that, oh man, that's just so blessed, I gotta share this with somebody? Again, see, because we think we're proclaiming. I'm gonna hurl the word. Yeah, okay. Just hot air. Like somebody passing gas. I know some of y'all think I'm pretty crude. Yeah, but you know what? I would surprise you. I know how to conduct myself if I was in the White House. Believe it or not. But you see, let me help you here. I know where I come from. I have a pretty good idea of how I got here. And regardless of how low man says I was, Y'all say something different. But I'm doing a little study on certain segments of our culture. And the people that I used to hold in such high regard, I'm starting to find some things out that's quite disappointing. And it's all in assimilating. All in assimilating. But I'm hopeful that I will never forget how I got here, where I come from, and I'm not ashamed of any of it. But I'm not going to try to imitate something that's against his culture. I'll put it that way. And I'm not looking to throw mud on nobody, but a lot of things, listen, we in our 20s and 30s, we thought a certain way. We saw life a certain way. In your 30s to 40s, you start seeing yourself a little differently. 40s to 50s, you start seeing your life even more different. When you get to your 50s, the world will turn on you. All the stuff that worked for you in your youth, it starts backfiring. Just a different set of challenges. But if you're in a situation where you can draw upon the wisdom of somebody that's already been where you got to go, listen to them. Listen to them. Even if you think, well, that ain't how it is no more. Let me tell you, certain things not going to change. You're going to have some victories. We're going to have some victories. We're going to have some defeats. We're going to have some challenges. We're going to overcome some challenges. We may succumb to some challenges. But all in all, if we'll walk out Torah, it will help us either if we have to go through it, or wisdom may say, Barry, just go around. Walking out the instructions will help you in dealing with life's challenges. Merely proclaiming what you memorized, it'll make you sound good to people that's still in that vein, but it won't do much else for you. It won't do much else for you. And I'll close with this. Listen, some of us have gotten too comfortable because we think mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, great-grandma, grandpa gonna always be here. No, they're not. And guess what? You are not either. So you might think you got life all figured out. None of us do. None of us do. God bless you.